Hey folks, how you going? Just continuing this bipinnate wattle series, and I think I've got another one here I can throw in. I'm just at Menai in Sutherland Shire in the conservation area. We've got a bipinnate wattle in flower. There's a whole stand of them along the track here, and I think I've sort of looked at them in the Menai Lucas Heights area before, but you can get them elsewhere as well. Now, this is probably one of the trickier ones. It's one of the trickier ones for me, I've found, when I got to know it and getting used to it. And sometimes it's just not as sort of clear cut as I'd like it to be. And even these ones I'm finding a little bit dodgy, but I've been around Sutherland Shire today. I have seen Acacia parvipinnula around on the edges of bushland. It doesn't really belong here, parvipinnula, but it's on the edges and it wasn't flowering. These guys are a consistent sort of up to 5 metres tall or thereabouts. And I do know they, just with some bushwalks, we've had a discussion about this one before. One of the first things to note, just look at the trunk. It's always got this sort of mottling. Now, I don't know if it's the only bipinnate that has this sort of mottling on it, but it's got this beautiful mottling on the trunk. Sometimes the patches are really blue. If I can justice to that, bluey grey. They're sort of very glaucous. And sometimes this wattle, which I think is Acacia parvipinnula, gets called the Blueskin. And I think it's because of the sort of bluey patches, bluey grey patches or glaucous patches on the trunk. So that's one thing to look out for to start with. I mean, I reckon falcifolia can sometimes throw those sort of colours as well. When I come down to these ones, the trunks are looking a bit too decurrens for my liking, and they're not really throwing a lot of blue on the trunk, but I have seen some populations where they can really throw it. So November 2024, it's in flower, and I have seen it in flower over the last month or so, or at least the last 2 or 3 weeks. Now, parvipinnula means small pinnules, and the bloke who named it that possibly didn't look at all the other bipinnates before he named it that, but that's just the way it goes. But parvipinnula means small pinnules, so normally they're heavily clustered and they're a bit on the small side, but I find the ones of the pinnules of parvipinnula can be just as small. The flowers are what you'd call a sort of mid-yellow, I guess, sort of darker than a creamy yellow. I'd say they're a bit more deeper yellow than paramatensis, which I got the other day, but this stand here is looking very, very paramatensis-y. So you might think it's paramatensis to start with, and I wouldn't blame you if you did. But what I've got to do is try and narrow down on the glands as quick as I can. And I've been having a practice, but I'll keep trying to get these glands again. We've got interjugary glands for parvipinnula. They're interjugary. We've got jugary glands a lot of the time. Sometimes the jugary glands are absent, but a lot of the time they're there. And then we've got commonly up to 3 interjugary glands. Now remember, falcifolia went up to 5. What you get in parvipinnula is 1 to 3 sort of random interjugary glands. Let me get my terms right. So jugary glands which might be there or might not be there. In this case, this leaf I've got, they seem to be there. And then you've got a random 1 to 3 interjugaries. And just remember, falcifolia, they went up to 5. So I've got 2 there and I've got 2 there. 1 interjugary there, 1 interjugary there. And I'm going to have to get some of the leaves out of the way, I think, to do this justice. But let me just try another one to see what the sort of degree we get. When you've got sort of parts that might be there sometimes and not there other times, that's where I you know, find them difficult. I just find them getting a bit sort of tricky. Now, if you have a look at that one, and make sure you compare to my falciparum video. Just going to try and zoom that in again. There we go. Now you can see some 2 interjugary glands there, and maybe an interjugary, and then we've got one there, one there, one again. Remember, paramatensis, there's always sort of one interjugary, and this guy's throwing a really good variation. So look, it's a little bit confusing. One of the things I'll just throw in now with parvipinnula is it's a little bit hairy. The foliage is a little bit hairy. You've got hairs on the back of the leaves, just these fine hairs, and it gives the whole plant a bit of a furry feel. Now, I'm probably going to have trouble doing justice to that with this, just with this phone. And the back of the rachis there, the leaf rachis, that's also hairy. It's just got these soft hairs on it. Now, falciparum and paramatensis, they don't seem to be overly hairy. And if you zoom in on the pinnules, they've got these fine hairs as well. So it just gives parvipinnula this sort of, it gives it a little bit of a fine sort of furrier feel with some leaves. And these are worrying me a bit. I'm just wondering if they're possibly integrating with something like paramatensis maybe. But if I grab another leaf here, it's got a nice sort of little bit of a furry feel to it. And sometimes I collect what I think is parvipinnula, and it's really soft. It's really soft and sort of furry, and sort of gives me confidence that I've identified it correctly. The falciparum was it had a bit of a different feel. It was a bit more, I guess, a bit less furry, a bit more drier. Just felt a bit different. Just going to get another leaf off another one. Let's just keep going and see what we get here. You can see one interjugary. Looks like the interjugary glands are there. Remember, we can get 1 to 3. So it's really giving us a hard time, this one today. Jugary glands, 1 interjugary. I think there's 2 interjugaries there, possibly. What parvipinnula can do, or what it's known for doing, is it can put interjugary glands together. It can put them right on top of each other. I'm just trying to see if I can capture that. It tends to put an interjugary gland right next to another one, and that's what I'm trying to get just there. You can sort of smack them together like that. And again, we've got some fine sort of hairs on this one, on the back. So if you sort of combine those together, it's got very clustered pinnules. I will say again that they're just not as strongly parvipinnula as I'd like. I've seen ones which you can really, you know, knuckle down on it really quick. But you can see the hairy rachis there, hopefully. It's almost like I've got to take half of the pinnae off one side of the leaf so we can really see these glands. But 1 gland, 2 interjugaries maybe there, maybe just 1. Another interjugary. You can see the interjugaries move a bit all over the place. They're sort of in a different position every time. Remember, with the paramatensis, they're sort of in the same place every time. Just going to look at another one. Just get enough, just try and get enough representation, what I call representation in botanical analysis. Bit of practice doing this. Yeah, there you go again. You can see 2. The jugary glands there, now you've dropped to 1, now you've dropped to 2, and an interjugary, 1 and an interjugary, 2 and an interjugary, possibly going up to 3 interjugary glands. And again, if you just combine that with this beastie being a little bit hairy, a little bit hairy and furry. And then it sort of loses the hairs as the leaves age, but there's sort of some genuine little fine hairs there on the back, and that should be good for parvipinnula. So a bit of a trickier one. It's a little bit trickier. If you've got it and you've got Acacia parvipinnula nearby, yeah, you're going to have a bit of fun. You're going to have a bit of fun. What I find with parvipinnula is it's a much bigger tree. It'll grow into a nice, you know, sort of 10-metre tree. Parvipinnula, it can do that, but around the Greater Sydney area, I see parvipinnula at about 5 metres tall, up to 5 metres tall most of the time. So just compare what I've done with Phyllicifolia for this one, because we're nowhere near getting up to 5 interjugary glands. We seem to be getting 1 or 2 is what we've sort of gotten the most in this. And it does say you can get up to 3. You got 2 interjugaries there just under those leaves. Cool. So it's a little bit tricky to grab, but just some ones further back here. They don't mind being on the track edge, so I've taken a bit more time with this one because it's a bit trickier. Just remember the mottling, the mottle trunk, it's really sticking out there. You've got a few more examples up here, just that really mottled trunk. I know it's similar to Phyllicifolia, and just check the young chunks of Phyllicifolia as well. They could be doing this sort of thing as well, but parvipinnula can really turn it on, this mottling. You don't tend to get this mottling in Decurrens or Paramatensis or Mearnsii. You just don't tend to get this really strong mottling. So just look out for that with parvipinnula. So have a go, see if you can pick up those features when you see it. Alrighty.